But here's the truth, your environment is either looking to help you grow or it's going to hold you hostage in any circumstance that you have in your life. And if you want to win, you have to start thinking bigger than where you came from, the small town you grew up in. Even if everybody thinks you're crazy, because they will. They will think you're crazy if you give them an idea. Your friends will probably laugh, if you say you want to, do something such as like starting a YouTube channel, they're going to laugh at first because they don't see the vision. They don't see, the tenacity that you have going into it, that you want to build something, bigger than yourself. Your environment shapes you more than you realize. What you think is normal coming from the 5 people, the 6 people, the 4 people you see the most, the conversations that you hear, the things that you're watching, the content that you're consuming. If everybody around you thinks being broke is normal, then you start to think that that's life. It's normal to just, be a little bit behind on rent. You start to think that it's normal that, you may not be able to obtain certain things. You kind of have a limited mindset if you think about it. If everybody around you hates their job, you kind of just think that's adulthood, Let's say you're working at a fast food place. You're working at an office job. You're working at a warehouse. And everybody, you can see the demeanor on their face. Nobody obviously wants to be there because whose dream is that really? And that's not all cases, for office jobs too. People can like really enjoy what they do, but some people, that's their last resort for them. But it doesn't have to be your story. You can always change what you want to do. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How to think bigger, how to level up, while everybody else is playing the small-minded games. Now, when it comes to step 1 in this, you want to really try to see the pattern. You want to see the pattern in your life that's leading to all these negative things occurring, these negative thoughts. Look at your circle, for instance. What do they talk about? Are they hyped about building something, or do they just gossip? Do they just talk about, your other friends, or do they talk about other people? Are they mainly just that type of group of people you're around? Are they learning new skills? Are they pushing themselves forward in their life day to day? Or are they just complaining that it's Monday again, Mondays, you know what I'm saying? Type shit. I mean, nobody likes Monday, but it's just the simple things that you got to really analyze in your life if you want to either change things or keep living the same way going forward. And this is not about judging people because nobody's really perfect. We all have our days, of course. It's about recognizing that if you do what they do, you're going to get what they get out of life, and you can see what they get because you can see them from an outside point of view. You might not know everything, but you can see, like somebody who's a co-worker working at the same job, and you per se want to be a CEO. You're not going to gain the greatest amount of input off of that person. You could learn something from them. You can learn something from anybody, but you're not going to learn the greatest inputs from that person. And there's nothing wrong with being friends with these people, of course. Like, everybody should be appreciated and loved, but you just got to know what you're looking for. Normal is not always good. You got to question the normal, Normal is living paycheck to paycheck. Normal is blowing half your weekend just being drunk, just being hungover, just, doom scrolling 4 hours a day, wondering why your life is not progressing at the rate that in your mind you think it should be. And when it comes to thinking bigger, it always means that you got to ask yourself, do I even want the life that's considered normal here? And honestly, most people don't ever ask that. And that's one thing that I've realized nowadays. I feel like most people are complacent with where they're at. They just follow the script they were handed, which, is not a script towards a bad life. They obviously do have things they work towards, but, going with the flow all the time and not exerting your full potential as a person is, I feel like, not the greatest way to go about things if you want to excel in life. You know, it's like downloading the default build in 2K and then wondering why your stats suck. Like, bro, you gotta you a brown shirt and you gotta get your, you know what I'm saying, you gotta get them badges. Like, you're garbage, buddy. But yeah, you just gotta learn to find people who think bigger. Find people who think bigger than you, bigger than yourself, bigger than them. If you stand around people who think small, you're going to think small too. And that's the truth. You got to get around big thinkers. You don't even have to know them in person yet. You know, at the point where we're at in the world, you can follow people, you can join a Discord, you can watch people who are actually building something, you know, let their mindset rub off on you. What are their characteristics that are leading them to become such a successful person and really showing the world what they can do? You know, read a book. The books are one of the easiest ways because so much knowledge, so many years of knowledge put into just few pages of paper. It's literally endless knowledge. If your current friends are clowns every weekend, you know what I'm saying, they just doing whatever they do, you know what I'm saying, still hang out with them, of course, you know, but spend some of that time learning from the people who are where you want to be. You know, you're always allowed to upgrade your circle without hating the one that you came from. And that's kind of what I've been trying to say in the last few minutes, because I want you to love the people near you. You always need to love people near you. You can never forget where you came from, because it's a very important part of your growth. But while I say that, always make sure you are trying to strive for that next level, the next group of people that could raise your, I won't say worth, but raise your vision. Feed it your brain better input. Okay, if you're only consuming gossip pages, you know, viral fails, celebrity drama that is, you know, it's really not something you're gonna remember as much, and it's not necessarily as important. You're just shrinking your brain. You're just feeding it things that, you know what I'm saying, that's not really making it process better. You're learning these things, but they're things that aren't necessarily gonna stick with you. So it's kind of just like you're wasting brain energy. Books, podcasts, YouTube channels on like money, business, mindset, psychology. It's just really free game out there. Like, you guys really gotta understand, like, it's levels to this, for real. You gotta start feeding yourself things that'll actually make your brain think. Most people never take action though, and they never look into it because it's not as entertaining as TikTok drama, which is understandable. But the most entertaining thing's not always the best thing. Think about it though. If you binge 10 episodes of Netflix, but say you don't have time to learn a skill that could inevitably change your life, your family's life, your future family's life, then what are we doing? You know, you do have the time. You know, you just got to choose the better inputs. And you can still have the negative inputs, but you got to overweigh them with the positive ones. Okay. When it comes to building a bigger vision, it's so much bigger than you think, obviously. You know, thinking bigger means you have to have something bigger to aim at. Close your eyes. How about this? Close your eyes and imagine that your life 5 years from now. Where do you live? How do you spend your day? You know, are you still in the same old town? What kind of friends do you live around? You know, what kind of problems are you solving on your day-to-day basis? What does your money look like, more so? Like, how financially inept are you? Write it down, you know, and it's a very actionable step. You could I would say put it in a notebook. I feel like it's easier. That's your North Star. And even if your environment doesn't look like that yet, because you know where you're going, you start to make different choices because you know what kind of path that you want to take, and you know what kind of life you want to live in your future. It's kind of a vision board necessarily, but And you kind of want to stick to something like this. I feel like it keeps you in track and it keeps you going in a certain direction that you 110% most likely will not regret. Big thinking needs mental space. And when it comes to learning how to handle all this stuff, you got to really learn to cut the noise out, I feel like. That means limiting the time with people who drain you, or, you know what I'm saying, avoiding endless doom scrolling, you know what I'm saying, muting the negativity for a while, because we know how much negativity there can be in the world. That doesn't mean obviously not cutting off everybody and moving to the mountains because, I mean, unless you want to go true monk mode, that would kind of be the best way to go about it. But it just means protecting your headspace so you can actually think, because we're overstimulated with so many things from a day-to-day basis, and that's just the truth. Take bolder actions, you know? Here's the thing. Here's the key, to be honest with you. Thinking big doesn't work if you don't act. Who would have known? Who would have known? You got to start taking the steps that would confuse the old you. You know, you got to sign up for the class that is going to teach you that skill, teach you how to edit that video, teach you how to make that thumbnail, or just start a YouTube channel. That's one of the easiest, one of the most return on investment things you can do. Open an investment account. That's another return on investment thing you can do that will extremely give you just a great approach to life. You know what I mean? It'll set you up for the future and set up everything you dreamed of. Asking to shadow somebody in a career that you want. You know, let's say you want to be a lawyer. Let's say you want to be a doctor. Let's say you want to be a plumber. You know, just asking somebody that's already in that career path to lead you and show you the ways is the best way to go about, you know, wanting to expand your horizon in that career. Even like small steps start rewiring, even small steps start rewiring your brain for growth. It's like, let me give you a kind of example that can go with this. This is kind of like pushing the objective when everybody else is camping. You know what I'm saying? They call you crazy until you get the ninja defuse and then you win that round. You know what I'm saying? They call you crazy at first, but who's really crazy in the end? You're going to push through the pushback because there's inevitably going to be something that is going to limit your ability to hit the nail on the head, as words. Here's the truth. When people see that you're doing something that is out of the ordinary and something that only a limited amount of people can start to achieve and start to reach, they laugh. They joke when you start to think bigger. They say that you've changed. They'll say that, you know, you're crazy. But, you know, that's the point. I feel like inevitably your growth will make some people uncomfortable, but it'll also inspire the right people to level up too. You're not just necessarily changing your life. You might be the blueprint for your whole entire group of people around you. Here's my call to action for you, for what you could take from this video and apply to your life. You don't necessarily have to be a product of your environment. You can be the one that breaks through the cycle and does incredible things that shows the people around you that you can do anything and that they can do anything too. You got to see the patterns. You got to build a bigger vision. You got to upgrade your circle. You got to feed your brain. You got to take action until your environment catches up to the life that you're building. But yeah, that was the video for today. This is TNL. Subscribe and like the video if you're new. I appreciate everybody who takes the time out of their day to watch my videos. It's very much appreciated. But yeah, that's the video. Thank you and bye.